Hey guys, this is Nathan and welcome to the Gaming 4. Today in this Factorio tutorial, we're going to be covering space-efficient smelting. Now, as you guys may have noticed, we have a pretty basic smelting setup going here, and what you also may have noticed is that both the iron ore and the copper ore for our current system is backed up, as in we could be smelting more of it if we really needed to. So with this in mind, today we're going to be expanding the smelting setup that we have. We're going to be making it a bit more compact in some ways, and we're going to be definitely taking up a lot more room because we're going to be putting in a lot more stone furnaces as well. So this should overall increase the iron ore production as well as the copper ore production, and it should set us up for a lot of heavy crafting that we'll be doing later on in the survival. So I'm going to start preparing the site and some space for us to do some of this smelting, and I'm just going to sort of deconstruct some of the stuff that we have, and I should cut into a time lapse here where I actually build the setup. Alrighty guys, so this is the setup that we're going to be using today, and this is actually one I came up with myself, and I'm sure a lot of other people have designed this one because it's probably one of the simplest and one of the more space efficient setups that you can create using these stone furnaces. To break it down for you guys, I'll build a single section of this entire setup over here. Now this setup leverages both short inserters and long inserters, and it's going to use a double track running right down the center. Now there's two reasons for this. First of all, we need to have ore and coal moved to these stone furnaces so that they can be smelted. Secondly, we need the finished product to be removed from this area on the second track. So as you guys will see, we've got the track on the right, which has the lines facing in. This is going to be the track that the ore and the coal comes in on. Half of it's going to be coal, half of it's going to be ore. The track with the arrows going to it, the one on the left in this case, is going to be the track that the output of the smelting actually goes onto. So in certain situations, it could be iron plates, copper plates, or even steel later on in the survival. So as you guys will see, this is sort of a little subsection of what we have going on here. Now the one last bit that you need to have for the setup to work properly is the power, and therefore every two of these little module setups you have to have power lines on either side of those. Now using this setup, it makes it completely modular. Right now I've got 12 furnaces hooked up and ready to go on this one setup, but of course you can extend it down for quite a ways and keep this general pattern. Now something to keep in mind, there's a little bit of space wasted with the small electric poles being the way that they are. This is fixed later when you do unlock better electric poles, and you can actually compact this a little bit more once you research some more things. So this is the basic setup, and now let's go over how to hook up the actual materials you need. So first of all, we're going to need ore and coal coming into one of these sides, and because we need the ore and coal, we need to bring a line of coal all the way up to the top because we're going to have the coal meet up with the iron ore. So we're going to need to combine these, half on one side, half on the other. So one of the easiest ways to do this is to just place them like this, and this will place them half and half. Now of course, as I mentioned before, the one where we want the ore and the coal going in on is the one with all the lines on it. In this case, it's the right side, and of course once we plug that in, this should start feeding all of our furnaces with both ore and coal, and this should start them on their smelting process. Now as you guys will notice, once the smelting is completed, it will start outputting iron on the other half. That's the nice thing about this setup. It's very modular and it keeps things separated and organized, and I think this is one of the most efficient in terms of space setups that you can create, and it's also really cheap, so you might as well use these when you can. Now a good question is, what can you do with this iron at the end? Well, you can just store it in a chest, or you can pipe it directly to whatever you're using to craft. So in this case, if we were to pipe it up to our red science pack assembly machines, we would have to have the output going up here somehow. The nice thing about this is you can change the direction of these tracks. If you just place over tracks facing the opposite way, it will of course change the direction, and this of course works because these tracks can go either direction and it doesn't really mess anything up. So in order to rehook some things back up, all we have to do is hook this back up to our iron gear machine, and this will be able to continue making iron gears for us for our red science packs. So I'm going to make a couple more of these, and I'm going to create one for copper as well. Alrighty guys, so now we've got our copper line set up, and as you guys will see, it's doing pretty much the same thing as our iron line. The setup is exactly the same, it's actually identical, and this will be providing our system, our crafting system, with enough copper to continue, probably more than enough copper to continue crafting our red science packs. As you guys will notice, I have left some room in between both of these setups. Also, I still have this small setup here. I will eventually use this later. The reason I have this one space gap between each of these setups has to do with an improvement to the setup that I will be using later. Sometime in the future, we'll be reorganizing this a little bit, and we'll need this extra little bit of space in order to make things a little bit more efficient. So whenever you do initially make these setups, keep in mind that you shouldn't completely abut these next to each other, and that you should leave at least a one space area in between those. Also, something to keep in mind is at least initially, you'll be using up a lot more iron than you will be copper. Now at the moment, we're not crafting anything, but when we do craft things, we'll use more than twice as much iron than we do copper. So I would suggest making more than one of these setups for your iron production, and I would only make one of these setups for your copper production, at least initially. You'll definitely find that you use up a lot more iron when crafting than you do copper. One more thing that I wanted to mention before we move on is that this system can be set up vertically or horizontally. It can be set up in both ways exchangeably, and because of this, depending on the map seed that you have, you can set it up either this way or this way. The orientation doesn't really matter, and of course, like all things, you can just rotate it if you need it. So anyway guys, hopefully this was a pretty good video on showing you guys how to expand your smelting setup. Once again, if you guys find interesting or better designs potentially, please discuss them in our Discord. I'll be happy to learn some new things about some new ways to organize stuff. Also, something you guys maybe notice is that our iron and copper ores are having a little bit of trouble keeping up with the amount of smelting that we can do. In the next video, I will be addressing how to expand the mining process properly so that we gain the maximum amount of ore per second, as well as so that we use up the entire ore patch evenly. So hopefully you guys will be interested in that. It'll definitely help you with the game a little bit later on as we do continue to expand and craft more things and just overall increase production by quite a lot. So anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe if you want to see some more. I will see you all later.